There was a time when people looked after other people's kids, when they cared about what was going on. We are still those people. We have the ability to bring that back. We have the ability to care about others. You know, my wife and I started a scholarship program called the Carson Scholars Fund. 14 years ago, we gave out our first scholarships in Maryland. And this year, we're in 34 states. We have almost 4,000 scholars. But to win one of those scholarships, not only do you have to be top-notch academically, but you also have to have a demonstrated life of caring for others. You cannot win it by just being smart. You know, the Marquis de Sade was smart. Hitler was smart, but they didn't do good things. So this is what we have got to begin to emphasize if we're going to take back our nation. And in terms of success, probably the best story I can tell you in closing, in 1997, I was asked to head up a team in an attempt to separate type 2 vertical craniopagus twins. Twins joined at the top of the head facing in opposite directions. There have been 13 attempts to separate such twins before, none of which had been successful. So I knew it was going to be a great medical challenge. But it was also going to be a great social challenge, because this was going to be done at the Medical University of South Africa at Medunsa, the major black teaching hospital in South Africa, always the stepchild throughout apartheid and in the post-apartheid period. This was going to be their chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with Cape Town and Johannesburg and all the other great universities. And I just wasn't ready for all that social pressure. And I said, Lord, you're going to have to show me something here. Smarter, more capable people than me have tried and failed. And as I was studying their anatomy on our three-dimensional workbench that we have at Hopkins, has the ability to integrate the MRI, the CAT scan, the angiogram into a 3D image. You put your goggles on, you can study the anatomy. And I noticed that the common draining system was narrower centrally than peripherally. The traditional neurosurgical literature said you should decide which twin to give the drainage system to, divide them over 3 or 4 operations separated in time by several weeks to several months, that they would develop adequate collateral circulation. But I felt that we could do it all in one long operation by concentrating on the area where it was narrowing down, and that they would develop the collaterals. And when I explained that to the team, they said, you're the boss, we'll do whatever you want to do. I remember going to that OR 2 days before New Year's of '98, big sign over the OR that said, God bless Joseph and Luca Banda. They were having song service and prayer service. I was thrilled. I said, can we bring in a stereo to play inspirational music? 19 hours into the operation, we were only 3/4 of the way finished. The part that remained was so complex. The vessels were engorged, they were entangled, they were adhesed, it looked impossible. And we took a break. We went into conference. I suggested maybe we could cover the area over with skin. And we could come back in a few months and they would have developed enough collateral circulation that we could cut through that area. And the doctors from Zambia, where the twins were from, and South Africa said, that's a great idea. And I know that would work at Johns Hopkins. But we don't have the ability to keep partially separated twins alive. They'll die. Now I really felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I went back in there without all my fancy equipment that I have at Hopkins. I had my surgical loops, my scalpel, and a prayer on my lips. And I said, Lord, it's up to you. I'm beyond what I can do. And I started cutting through those blood vessels. And they were so thin, you could see the anesthetic bubbles coursing through, just daring you to make a nick in them. Make a long story short, when I made the final cut that separated those twins over the stereo system, came the Hallelujah chorus. And everybody had goosebumps. And when we finished that operation after 28 hours, one of the twins popped his eyes open and reached up for the endotracheal tube. By the time we got to the ICU, the other one did the same thing. By the time 2 days had gone by, they were extubated. Within 3 days, they were eating. Within 2 weeks, they were crawling. And today, they're doing well in the 6th grade. But you know, that's not the success. The success you had to be there to witness was the reaction of the people. This was done in their country. in their hospital. They were literally dancing in the street. Their level of self-esteem was so high. That's what I mean by success, using the talent God has given you to elevate other people. And that's what I mean when I say think big. Each one of those letters means something special. The T is for talent, which comes from God. He gives it to everybody, not just the ability to sing and dance and throw a ball. Nothing wrong with sports and entertainment, don't get me wrong. But intellectual talent. We need to emphasize it. We need to put our money where our mouth is. We cannot be shortchanging our young people. We have to do this. The H is for honesty. Lead a clean and honest life. You don't put skeletons in the closet. You put them there. They always come back to haunt you just when you don't want to see them. And if you always tell the truth, you don't have to try to remember what you said 3 months ago. It makes life so much less complex. The I is for insight, which comes from listening to people who've already gone where you're trying to go. Learn from their triumphs. Learn from their mistakes. Don't have to reinvent the wheel. The N is for nice. Be nice to people. Because once they get over their suspicion of why you're being nice, they'll be nice to you. And you can get so much more done when you're being nice and they're being nice. And can we all do something? I want us to take the niceness pledge. Just raise your hand right where you are. All hands up. If the person next to you doesn't have their hand up, you may kick them, okay? Okay, because now you got to be nice, okay? Now you can put your hand. Now, let me just tell you what you pledged to do. You pledged to be nice to everybody you encounter for 1 week, okay? You can put your hands down. But 1 week, okay? That includes your spouse, okay? Now, that means no talking about people behind their back for a week. Now, I understand some people will stroke out. I do understand that, okay? It means you see somebody struggling, you're going to help them. Men, it means we're bringing chivalry back. We're going to hold the doors for the ladies, hold their chairs for them. Ladies, you're not cursing them out when they do that. One spot on the elevator, you're letting somebody else get on. And when you're on the elevator, you're not going to act like you never saw the numbers change before. Talk to people. You might have to practice CPR, but talk to people. Talk to janitors. Talk to maids. Talk to security people. Talk to people you walk by and act like they don't exist. Because they do exist. They have feelings just like you. And what would your life be like if they weren't there? Think about that. You're going to get in your car. There's no spaces in the parking lot. 3 people are following you because they want your space. When you get in your car, you're not going to open the glove box and pull down the mirror. Just get out of the space. You don't have to revel in your power. But what are you doing during that week? Thinking about others first. How easy is that? We can do it. It starts with each one of us. Don't have to wait for the other guy. Don't ever let your excuse be, well, they did it to me. That's a sign of immaturity. We can do better than that. That's why God gave us these big brains. The K is for knowledge. It's the thing that makes you into a more valuable person. Do I have a big house? Yes. A lot of cars? Yes. I grew up in Detroit, like cars. A lot of things that Robin Leach thinks are important? Yes. Are they important? No, they mean nothing. And if they all disappeared tomorrow, I don't care, because I can get them all right back almost immediately with what's up here. You know? Or at least I could before managed care. And, but that's what Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, meant when he said, gold, silver, and rubies are nice, but be treasured far above those things, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. With those he knew you could get all the gold and silver and rubies you wanted. More importantly, you'd come to understand those things don't amount to a hill of beans, and that the most important thing is developing your God-given talent so you to become valuable to the people around you. The B is for books, which is the mechanism for obtaining that knowledge, and it's never too late to read. You know, my mother did eventually teach herself to read, got her GED, went on to college in 1994, got an honorary doctorate degree, so she's Dr. Carson now too. So it's never too late, never too late. The second I is for in-depth learning, learning for the sake of knowledge and understanding, as opposed to superficial learning. Superficial learners are people who cram before tests, sometimes do okay, and 3 weeks later know nothing. We can't afford that. Not in the information age. We've got to do better than that. And the last letter, the most important letter, G, is for God. You know, some people have tried to toss God out of our society. They say he is not politically correct for us. Some lawyers came to my wife and I some years ago, and they said, you can't put your Think Big banners up in public schools because the G stands for God. And the First Amendment says there can be no government support of religious expression. Well, I reminded them that the First Amendment also says there can be no government suppression of religious expression. So we had a rather vigorous argument. And I suggested that we resolve it at the level of the Supreme Court, which seems like a bold and reckless statement, but it really wasn't, because I don't make bold and reckless statements. I knew the very next week I was going to the Supreme Court to receive the Jefferson Award. So I figured I would ask while I was there, and I did. And Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said they were all wet. They had no idea what they were talking about. They had no idea what separation of church and state meant. And of course you could put it up without violating anything. And people who say silly stuff like that, do they know anything about this nation and about how it was founded? Do they recognize that our founding document, our Declaration of Independence, talks about certain inalienable rights given to us by our Creator, a.k.a. God? Do they realize that the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag says we are one nation under God? Do they realize that most courtrooms in the land on the wall, it says, in God we trust? Every coin in our pocket, every bill in our wallet says, in God we trust? So if it's in our founding documents, it's in our pledge, it's in our courts, it's on our money, but we're not supposed to talk about it. What in the world is that? In medicine, it's called schizophrenia. And doesn't that explain a lot of what's going on in our nation today? And we need to make it perfectly clear that it's okay to live by godly principles of loving your fellow man, of caring about your neighbor. Dr. King emphasized that, of developing your God-given talents to the utmost so that you become valuable to the people around you, of having values and principles that govern your life. And if we do that, not only will we remain a pinnacle nation, but we will truly have one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Do you know who we are? PCCEO, helping people, changing lives for every stage of life.